Hello, hello. Welcome to the Thoughtful Edge podcast, hosted by Dmitry Savchenko, and this is episode number 6. Today, I'd like to discuss quite an interesting and challenging topic that I believe is relevant to everybody in their career journey. The topic is navigating the leap from individual contributor to leadership mastery. And it's about the transition from individual contributor to leadership roles and the choices we need to make on this path. And my guest today is Sam Haboush, VP of Innovation Engineering at Kinesso. And he has solid background in engineering, in software engineering in particular, 25 years, and which is solid and huge. And he's also my colleague and dear friend. So, Sam, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your current role at Kinesso and what is it interesting you do?
Hi, Dima. Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. This is really an honor. So I can introduce myself. I have right now I'm a VP of Innovation Engineering, and what that means is that I focus on the innovation aspect of the engineering department within Kinesso. There's a lot of problems that kind of differ between um, innovation R&D, research and development, and when you have low certainty around what you're building or you're trying to discover, and the conventional engineering discipline where we're creating stories and adding features that customers have requested, through a regular Scrum or Agile process. And so that requires different tools, different milestones, different processes, and different adaptations. And so I lead the teams that help bridge that gap, taking a product from R&D to production-ready, customer-facing product.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Yeah, this is a really important job and a really important role because sometimes there are projects that just cannot be done because nobody can just put it in production and productize that the way that anybody can use it and not just be run and executed on some local laptop. Okay, so let's come back to our main topic. Having so many years of experience, like you went through, I can imagine, like everything. You worked in different positions, different companies, different roles. And how did you first identify your desire to transition from IC, individual contributor, to a leadership role in the engineering space?
Okay. Okay, Dima. So, I like stories. So I'm going to actually, tell you what happened to me, my story, towards, thinking about leadership and actually focusing on that more than my engineering skills, perhaps. When you finish school, you've learned a lot about how to engineer software. You think you know about that topic, enough to be employed, and then you discover actually there is a big gap between what you learned at school and then what actually happens in the industry. There is a lot of missing pieces, and so you start building these, and you really develop this fervor, almost love for learning new things and how to craft faster, highly scalable, super mega data oriented, the cool new language and the cool new framework. And so you're running after these things because you know what? Once you know all of these, you'll be so effective, so fascinatingly, productive, etc., etc. And then someone comes who probably doesn't know as much as you know about all these new cool things, and changes the equations by asking a few questions or by making a presentation about very probably high level topic that I have not thought about or considered because I was busy with the lines of code and all the other mechanics. And so that made me at some point, having had that from very talented leaders in my organizations that I worked in at the time, made me stop and think, oh, maybe it's not about what I thought, it is. And then my journey began. I'll let you continue because, that's then maybe the beginning. That's when I thought, okay, what I'm doing is not what's going to make me 10x. That's not what's going to make the project succeed. That's not what is going to break the next big thing. I have to do something else. And I started looking at these leaders and what they do. Yeah, and hence, it moved from there.
Nice, nice. What an interesting perspective. So you as engineer, you were looking at the products, how you can scale the product actually, and then you realized, oh, how can I scale myself? And is it just learning another language? Is it learning another framework? And then yeah, like there is something else that I need to do on this journey to scale myself. It's just not solved through some ordinary stuff or the things that you get used to do. So, what were the key skills or experiences you identified as required to develop in order to make this transition successful?
Yeah, they didn't all come about at the same time, but I would say that people is the focus of this. I was just telling you that I looked at other people and I noticed, observed that they are much more effective despite maybe not having all the knowledge in all the spaces that I knew about. I knew all the cool frameworks. So really, people focus is really an important skill. I would say it is maybe the most important. So when you look at the software project, people like just generally focus on, what database are you using, what technology are you using, agile or not, and some other questions related to the mechanics. But really, like I think once you become a leader, you have to first look at the people. Have you hired the right team? How is the team working together? What is the culture within the team? And so on. Are they happy? Are they comfortable? Are they commuting too far, etc., etc.? I think people focus in all their aspects. That's really one important one. The second one is that not to be victim to yourself, I would say. So I have, bad habits. Sometimes I don't think carefully before I speak. I might be emotional in some conversations. Things, I'm just a human and I have these flows. And I would say that I've heard that again from other people, and I've like just noticed the difference that it makes. You have to be conscious and deliberate and measured about your responses to stimuli around you in the environment in order to be effective at influencing it towards a positive outcome. So your natural reactions might not be the best ones that you can come up with. I think that's an important, really, skill that I would say for leadership. Yeah. Uh,
Nice. No, yeah. Anything
good,
else?
good.
Yeah, resonates with me as well. And I was also contemplating this idea of like to be able to talk to different people, you need to use different language. But if you'll start using different language, then you might lose your authenticity. It is was my way of thinking. But then I've read somewhere an interesting idea which says actually that it's not about changing your authenticity, it's just using an adapter to your language, the way you use for the outlet socket to when you travel to different countries, you need this adapter to use your appliances or your smartphone charger or whatever. You're still the same, you're still using this, you still have the same soul, you still have the same ideas, but you just use the adapter to be able to communicate them successfully and effectively to other people. Yeah, good perspective.
Yeah, I agree with.
And still, like having this solid background in engineering and having spent so many hours doing the coding on research or some technical stuff, it might be tough for one to balance that technical expertise with the new responsibility of the leadership. So, like, what is your answer to that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a this is actually, it's interesting. My answer to this is it's going to be related to also some of the maybe not skills but perspectives that I gained. So that the previous question, you know, I genuinely made the mistake of thinking I am going to learn everything. I actually thought that is like that was an intention, and to me today, I think that was deluded and perhaps ambitious, but maybe unrealizable. And so I think one of the things that I had to become comfortable with is that that balance means losing some battles with technology and delegating them to my team. So, becoming really part of the team and allowing myself to allow other people to excel in things that I don't have the time or the focus to do so. So that comes to, the skill to trust others, the skill to understand your own limitations. Like you are not going to be, that all knowledgeable God that you think you can, if you try it hard enough. And that just changes everything, around that. That's not to say that I am not spending time to learn what I think is interesting and that matters to my company, my organization, or my next big thing. But that gives me the focus to say, like, I'm going to learn that much and then let the rest of the team take care of the rest. And that works. Yeah.
Yeah, completely understand you. I also have this natural temptation all the time. Oh, like I need to learn about that thing more. Like let me dive, let me read some of these manuals. Like let me try to run this app and see how it goes, how it works. This is really a challenge. This is really a challenge. Can you remember any other challenges that was difficult for you to grasp and get the idea of like how these people are being successful in the leadership roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking generally, like, other challenges that we face as I make the transition. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say letting go of details was really difficult. As an engineer, you have this habit actually to like master your craft so deeply. Like, I used to like review every line of code or, know everything there is to know about Spring or Java or Haskell or whatever, other technology that at hand, and then like actually then moving to focus on outcomes for your people or the team, or having a vision that is very blurry. It's a high level thing, so that you have to like rethink what you're looking at, at a very, I think, different abstraction level, I would say. Yeah, that was really tough, I think. Also having to learn then to like deal with a lot of people from different styles. So you're the communication of the team. If you're leading, you're a team lead or a department lead. So your colleagues then will vary. So you might join a team with a culture that is really healthy and you're happy, everybody is great because you're an IC within a team that fits you. You agreed to just join that group and work with them. But as a team lead or an organization lead, you cannot escape dealing with DevOps, and you didn't choose them, or you couldn't escape to work with marketing, and you didn't choose them, but you have to, or HR, or and so you'll be that kind of interface, and so that flexes a lot of muscles in your brain and heart that did not have to be flexed when you're dealing with computers and your small community of developers on your team. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This is very true. All the stakeholders, maybe some of your other peers that you need to negotiate with. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe sometimes you don't want to do it, but like it is what it is. It is needed to accomplish your project successfully. Maybe they have some knowledge or they have some resources that you don't possess at this current moment, and they help you. Yeah, it's all about communication.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the communication, how you ensure the effective communication between your team members, especially when you're dealing with the complex engineering project?
Yeah. It's a very good question, actually. And I have to say, one of the things that I think I heard, and then now I just repeat all the time, communication is everything. So, like, you just asked me about everything. And I think that's really an extremely important aspect that we have to think about. So, to me as well, that even is more compounded in a remote world after the pandemic. So since the pandemic, that becomes even more challenging and requires more thought and consideration from leadership in any organization. So to me, I think I try, very hard to provide the best tools that I can. You know, uh, I see people without good mics, without internet, without cameras, without good cameras, without maybe like in the wrong time zone, in the like, or in a different time zone. There is no wrong time zones there, all right. Et cetera, et cetera. A lot of challenges. So any tool that I can provide, I think it's worth the money. So I would buy people the cameras if they're missing. I would improve their laptops if they can't cope with the calls, et cetera, et cetera. If Teams is the right tool or Slack is the right tool or whatever it is that is needed to make that happen, I like spare no effort to make sure that this happens. And also, I think I try to, set some expectations and habits for the team. So, like when we join, before we start, we have cadence, habits, and routines. I think that becomes more natural. I noticed if you leave it organic, it becomes really depends. So I would rather the opposite. We start with a good like base that we say, okay, that's what most of us will do. And then if there are exceptions, maybe, someone cannot follow these expectations or habits, accommodations are always made. So that's okay. And then maybe, I did the easy stuff. I mean, in my view, tools and expectations are easy. But then I think the more difficult, but more important also, is the culture that we create within the team. So trust, if you love your colleagues, you don't need someone to tell you to communicate with them. You're looking for an opportunity already, right? Like what
Right,
happens between us,
right,
Dima, right? That's just
for
natural.
sure.
And then and the freedom. So like you should not feel that you cannot express yourself within your teams. That's really important. So there, like that comes also from the trust and safety and the culture that you create around this, and also making it fun, for people, useful and available and inclusive. You have the quiet people, the not the loud people, the not non-stop talking people, etc., etc. And you have to like make sure the environment
Balance,
fits
balance.
everybody.
Give everybody a word. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's what I would say about communication. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's really important, and I would also like to emphasize that like point that you'd rather give everybody an opportunity to express themselves, like even explicitly asking everybody in the room, like, what is your opinion on that topic?
Yes.
Because sometimes, like we engineers, we like sometimes we are shy of, sometimes we just don't want to say anything because like we feel comfortable without that. But if uh, if we're given a stage, we can definitely make a difference by introducing some our like unique perspective or some our thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important encouraging this communication too during some of these meetings, and not forgetting about the people who might be not that vocal as somebody else as well. Okay, let's move on then. How do you manage the expectation and career development for your team members while still meeting the project goals and deadlines?
Yeah. Another challenging area, but I think like I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeves. So to me, I do my best to match projects and people's aspirations or interests in my organization. You really don't want to ask someone to do something for 8 hours a day when they hate it. That's a tough like ask that is doomed to fail most of the time, or at least like be suboptimal for both the organization and the person involved. So I think that helps if you can do that. You hire people that are interested in the job, or you find jobs for the people that you've hired that they are interested in. That's really one important thing. And sometimes, of course, there is expectation to do things that are not nice, but they should not be the dominant part of your job on a day-to-day basis. And then makes people happy, but then the other side is career. How do they get promotions? How do you do performance reviews, etc., etc. And to me, this is really transactional. I like this one to be transactional because it's naturally emotional. If people do not have clear expectations in order to move up or get a particular grade, etc., then it becomes a guesswork and a lot of emotions, and that it's already emotional, so it becomes just really difficult. So I like it really to be transactional. I would agree with most of my people on a contract, like if we deliver this way, with this quality, mostly numeric, something either binary or numeric. Like we finish project X before day X, that's binary, or numeric. We get 90, $100,000 before that date in income or in like customer acquisition, or whatever it is. Then you will become from that role to that role, or from that title to that title. I think that for me, or you will get that grade or whatever it is. And so I think that makes then when the time comes to talk about it, it becomes a really easy conversation. Yeah, so that's kind of the two approaches: the contract based approach for career management, and also the attempt to make people happy and interested in what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I will totally agree with that too. Like, as more you trust people, and as more you demonstrate them your like good intentions, and your trust in them, and you just that belief in their success, and like encourage them to go forward, and to make an extra mile in their effort to achieve something. Yeah, this is very important.
Yeah, I noticed that also that allows them to negotiate. If you agree beforehand on a contract, it's just like a contract with any company. You might, before you sign it, you might say, "Oh, can I check on this clause?" Or "No, I don't think I can, sign this one. This is too much money," or whatever it is. So, that actually really makes it like a two-way communication at the beginning, at the right time, instead of a surprise, towards the end, or of a cycle, or a time for a promotion, or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that makes total sense. However, there are often, or not often, depending on the team, there are the conflict situations and disagreements. And especially when it comes to technical decisions, like what tool we should use, like what programming language or database we should choose for that or another task, or that or another problem. How do you handle these conflicts? What are the strategies you might
Hmm.
suggest?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a big one. Again, because it has people and emotions, so it's another big one. So you know, I would say I started this actually with myself. I used to have these actually conflicts as well. I used to think what you've just done, person X, is wrong, and what I said should be done is right. This
Right.
has to go. This is the first thing. I started with myself to understand. Actually, in tech, there is no right or wrong. Even if you take the most obvious examples, there is no right or wrong. There is just trade-offs. And I think, I try to help my people and coach them towards looking at everything in tech that same, exact way. And then that helps them not to take it personal and just see the other trade-offs. So we've just lost something and we gained something else, or the reverse, and that's how it works. So once I got that out of myself, now I feel like I can look at this, easier, or help like people as well get there. And then I think we should start early. People who actually I focus on my hiring on that side are these people easily like offended, or they have very high ego, or look at the world with right or wrong lens. And I think I try to avoid that hire if I start. I think that's really important in my team. I'd like to not have those people get in. And then I think the care and the genuine trust of the team members. So you need to really plant that trust so that the conversation become not about who's right and who's wrong, but rather about what is best for all of us. And then also look at every piece of technical decision as an experiment. Nothing works always or fails always. And it is complex to make these decisions. And hence, there is nothing to say we should experiment with X before Y or Y before X. And it's never too late to run the next experiment. So I am also trying to, always, encourage the team to look at these things in that way. And then, also you look for the win-win. I oftentimes see that actually two sides that have two different opinions, if they actually stop, they will find that you can get both. For example, you might have solution X hybrid with solution Y, or you might actually find
This
that
is
they
my
don't.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they just need to think about it. Try to find a win-win instead of trying to win. Try the other side to win as well. So I always like try to look for these solutions so that everybody is happy. And then if these all things don't work, we really have to trust a leader or a third party to make that decision, and work on disagree and commit. So we ultimately cannot do both, but because we trust each other, and that's how the team works, we'll trust Sam or Dima or some other lead or a third even developer on the team that we trust to make a decision for us, and we'll move on. I think these are kind of mostly the measures that I take.
Yeah, yeah. Agreed completely. Like the balance, you need to find the balance, the right balance between the pros and cons, like benefits, outcomes, and how it all will play together ultimately in the result. I would also add that it's important to keep an eye on the eyes on the prize, like to see like the whole picture. What are you going to achieve? What do you want to achieve? And what is the goal of this whole exercise? And what is the most efficient way to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good strategies. Thank you for sharing. So, and moving on, what advice would you give to individual contributor considering a transition to a leadership role in our engineering field?
Yeah. No, I would say that you genuinely have to want to do it, and I think I would advise him to ask that question and really do some research on what that entails before deciding that, yeah, I sharing you with your manager or applying for a job in that kind of role. It changes you, it changes what you do on a day to day, it requires other effort, and so if you really don't want to do it and you're not sure, you might fail and put yourself in a position that is not favorable or happy for you or others as well. So it's really important to study that. And then once you discover, like, you decide that this is the thing for you, I would say, as we said, people. Look for people who've done it. Look for the people who've done it successfully and learn what they do. Read books about the topic. There are classics, there are successful ones. Go ahead and read them. Subscribe to a blog or something about the topic, again, leadership and things like that. Don't wing it. Don't think you're talented. It has been done for.
Subscribe to a Thoughtful Edge podcast, for
Yes,
example.
exactly. Subscribe to Dima's, yeah, to Dima's podcast. I think that would be a great resource. So yeah, I think that's really an important one. And also, I would recommend them not to fall in the trap of becoming a mere manager. To be a leader is very different from being a simple manager who, like, is the boss in a team. That is not what you want to do. I would advise them not to aspire towards that. Try to be a leader that people follow you, not you drag them, and that's really a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, all the modern studies suggest exactly what you just said. Like the people will feel happier if they will have the leader instead of a manager, the person who would listen to them, who would appreciate their work, who would encourage to build trust between the team members, and it's just, yeah, having empathy and ability to negotiate, finding the right balance between different decisions. Yeah, it's all important side of that. And I also would like to emphasize on the most important question, whether you want to do that or not. Like maybe it's not for you. I've seen examples when people would become will take on some leadership position and then work there for a while and then decide to move back to an IC role because they realize that it's not something they wanted to do anymore, and they just want to enjoy the coding.
Yeah.
They just want
Creative
to
aspect of coding. Yeah.
yeah, they just want to enjoy whatever they get used to doing, and they got pretty happy about that. And yeah, looking at, but if you will ultimately decide, yeah, the most obvious thing is definitely look at someone who already did that, and what are these attributes and characteristics, what are the skills they possess that you don't at this moment, and like just try to fill these gaps, and it will all come ultimately. Okay, let's move on. It is the crazy world now, and the technology is developing at so quick pace that it's very hard to stay up to date with the latest development in technologies in software and the whole AI and other stuff that's appearing every day, like every programming languages that's popping up here and there, like in masses. And how do you stay up to date with all of that? And how do you encourage continuous learning within your team?
Yeah, yeah. So I really like to make learning a disciplined process, not an optional one. I fell in that also mistake before. It's like, yeah, I've got that book on the shelf that I'm going to read, but today was a busy day, so I'm going to skip today. But tomorrow I am going to read it. Okay, that's like I'm going to read a couple of pages tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes on after, and so that lack of methodological, is that wrong? The right word? Methodic like approach to learning is, I think, problematic, and it caused me some trouble. And then I learned that really discipline is probably one of the most important things about learning that you need to do. You cannot skip it. And so I set up a minimum. I have on my mobile a reminder every day at a particular time that now it's the time to read. And so I do that. So that's really important. And then I would say as well that listening and allowing others to teach you is really important. So in a lot of meetings, people spend the meeting talking instead of listening. And I think if they reverse that, or like invested in listening, they will learn actually. Because other people are talking about things. You'll be in a meeting about security, and people will talk about security, and you learn something about security. You'll be talking. You'll hear them talking about AI, which is all the hype today, and then you'll learn something about AI, etc., etc. So I think that's a habit I am trying to develop and improve, upon. And then obviously, as well as I told you earlier, as well, I subscribe to some, selected set of like resources online to send me the latest summaries, podcasts, like yours, but or others are technical, and then I listen. I scavenge some time to listen to these or read these, waiting my wife to get dressed, or listening to a podcast while driving the kids to school or back from dropping them at school, etc., etc. It's a challenge, but I think I'm doing okay. Yeah,
Yeah, and then just by setting this example of yourself learning all the time, the other team members of your team can just follow. They will look at you and realize, oh, this guy is doing something interesting. I will probably try to do the same. Yeah, this is a good point. Nevertheless, we are coming to the end of our today conversation, and I have the last question for you, which I believe is an interesting one, and related to everything what is going on now in the market with the AI and some latest development in that field. What is the future of engineering leadership, and how this appearance of AI bot ChatGPT might affect that, and what are the other trends that you observe in the market?
yeah. I am still like not sure about how ChatGPT will affect the leadership in organizations and enterprise. I feel though that AI in general will have a huge impact in the future, because it will be able to give many insights that leaders lack today. They rely on tools that are not as effective or able, they're not as able to interpret the data that we have. So a lot of organization, you'll find that either the tools to collect the data is broken, or the insights from the data are manually or human made, and so they're less methodical or based on someone's bias towards how to look at this data, or even serving the purpose of not upsetting the leader. And so, they have to look beautiful, etc., etc. I think in the future, the data will be collected automatically and the insights will be presented hard and dry on the leader's desk, and so maybe more effective decisions will be made. Could be really positive if we also maintain our human aspect. So we look at the data, we understand the reality, but yet the decision should not be like merely on a non-human kind of interpretation of it. But yeah, I think it will help a lot, and I think that's an exciting thing to product to look at maybe in the future. Maybe that's the next
Yeah.
AI, startup leadership through AI.
Yeah. I believe there are plenty of such products already in development by different groups and companies.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming to my podcast today. It was very interesting conversation. Is there any last of piece of advice you want to give listeners on our topic?
Yeah. I want to actually recommend people, whether they want to be leaders or not, to have a mentor or a role model. I think this goes along with the trust in other people, and also it gives you hopefully a more impartial mirror for yourself, and makes you really, I think, a much better leader overall. Do not rely on yourself to walk that journey on your own. Walk it with others. You'll be more successful. That would be my last word there.
Great. Thank you so much. This is very useful. And yeah, have a good rest of your day and good luck, everyone. Bye.